Okay, so let's get started on this. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drill a... You could use either an 1.25 inch or an 1.5 inch spade bit on this. And basically what this is going to do, it's going to act as a hole so I can feed the electric extension cord in there. I used a 15-foot extension cord with a 3-way on the end of it to supply the power for everything on the interior of the box. And you could... With this hole, you can also use it for the air line and the motion sensor line, and if you have to run a speaker line out. I haven't decided if we're going to put the speaker in the box or outside the box yet, so that's still up in the air. But basically, this is basically one way of feeding all your stuff into the box. Okay, so now we're going to set up for the 2-inch cylinder. So right now I'm just going to measure the center of the box, and I'm going to use the same spade bit that I used for the electrical hole, 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch. Pretty much it doesn't matter. And whoop, there goes the camera. What the hell's going on? I'm falling and I can't get up. Anyway, now I'm just gonna, like I said, I found the center. Now I'm just gonna figure out how far off the back of the box I'm gonna come, and I'm gonna drill the same hole, like I said, for the electric, and that's basically going to give your box the effect that it's jumping by installing this cylinder. So let's start drilling this sucker out. Alright, so as you can see, we got the hole drilled out. Now I'm just going to put the cylinder in place, and here's where you can use the 3/4 inch screws. Now obviously you can see I'm using 1.5 inch screws because when I did this I didn't have any 3/4 inch screws on me, so I temporarily did it with the 1.5 inch. But use it 3/4 inch screws to my son's head's in the way, like always. But use the 3/4 inch screws to mount this down to the bottom of the box, and you should not have a problem. Alright, so now we're going to install the 1.5 inch cylinder. This will be the lid opener cylinder. So I didn't take any measurements, I just eyed it up. I lined up the rubber stopper to the top of the box, and I don't know, maybe came off the front maybe like 2 inches, and mounted it to the side with the 3/4 inch screws. Like I said, I used 1.5 inch at this point because I didn't have them, but I went back and I actually put the 3/4 inch screws in, and they work very well. Okay, so here I'm basically going to start laying out the rest of the components in the box. Right now I'm doing the pneumatic valves for the cylinders. Obviously one's going to be for the base cylinder and one's going to be for the lid cylinder. As far as measurements go, I didn't take any measurements. I just laid them out and pretty much, you know, eyed up where I wanted them to go. So I got one on each side, and then the boo box flex is going to go right in the middle of the two of them. One thing I am going to do is go back eventually, and I will put some kind of a cover on the boo box just so I can keep it dry, because this is probably going to be outside most of the time, and I really don't want it to get wet, especially because it's not a cheap component for this whole thing. So some kind of like a Tupperware lid where I'll drill holes so I can run all the wires in it, and we'll see how that works. But for now I'm just gonna mock everything up and get it all together and see if everything works. Okay, so now I'm just gonna start running the air intake lines to each of the valves. And on these lines, there's going to be a pressure reducing valve on there, so I can adjust the amount of airflow going to each one. So I think I'm going to have the tank set up to like 60 psi, and with this you can actually adjust it inside the box so that the it doesn't wear out the cylinders. Plus I'm also going to use the I have a PEX cutter to cut these lines, which will actually give it a nice smooth cut. So here I'm, you know, hooking up the Y splitter, because I'm going to have one line coming in, and this is going to split the air to each of the cylinders. And right now I'm just going to start running lines to each cylinder. Basically, you know, just eyeing up how much hose I'm going to need for the top and the bottom. No real science to that or anything. Just go by eye. Alright, now I'm going to figure out where I'm going to put the fog machine. Now, this is going to be like the breath that comes out of the front of the box. And here I'm just seeing where the fog machine is going to go. And now I'm actually going to try to line up the PVC pipe. So you're going to need the 2 elbows and a small little straight piece. And this whole thing is going to be trial and error. So you're going to have to play around with it and see exactly where you want it to be and where everything is going to go. Okay, now once I figured out where everything was going to go between the fog machine and the actual PVC pipe, I made some marks, and as you can see from what I'm showing you is I re-drilled the bracket that came with the fog machine. The bracket's actually supposed to go on top, but I put new holes in it, and I'm actually going to use that and mount that to the bottom of the box so that the fog machine will stay in place, and hopefully nothing will move eventually. And then I'm just going to take the 3/4 inch screws and screw the bracket down to the bottom of the box, and that will keep the fog machine in place. Alright, so before I actually mount the fog machine down, I'm going to plug in the trigger button for the fog machine. Now I had to hack this a little bit, and I actually took it apart, opened up the trigger assembly, and soldered 2 wires to the trigger. So the purpose of doing this is you have to hook it up to the 12-volt relay, which I'll show you in a little bit. But the 12-volt relay will then get attached to the boo box, and that will trigger the fog machine when it's actually when your program actually makes a trigger. So Fright Pops actually has like not a troubleshooting, but it's like a little I can't remember where it is on the website, but they actually show you step by step on how to actually do this if you have to hook up a fog machine to something. So it's actually pretty helpful. They actually have a lot of helpful stuff on their website. So this is one of the things that I actually had to look up on the website to actually get help with. It's actually pretty simple. Okay, so here's that 12-volt relay I was talking about. Now you want to have the fog machine hooked up to the normally open side of it, and then the side with the 2 little wires will go to the actual boo box. And like I said, once the program triggers it, it will actually go through that relay, trigger the relay, and then we'll actually set off the fog machine. So now that we got basically everything set up on the inside of the box, now we're going to actually start wiring up the valves, the relay for the fog machine, and then eventually we will be setting up the Nano spotlights for the front of the box. And the boo box actually has a very detailed instruction manual on the inside on how to wire everything. There's a positive lead, and then you got your negative leads on there also. I guess that's what they call them. But it actually tells you exactly how to wire everything up and where everything's supposed to go. So with this, you got four terminals, I believe. And terminal 1's going to be the base, terminal 2 is going to be the lid, then you're going to have the fog machine in 3, and then the nano spot in 4. So it's very, very detailed on everything, so you really can't screw it up. Alright, and here I'm hooking up the motion sensor. Like I said, even the motion sensor comes with detailed instructions on how to hook it up to all of their different the boxes, and obviously I had to look at this one for a while just to figure out how it went together, but it was actually pretty simple. Alright, so here we got the base for the Nano spot lights, and what I just showed you was that's the base. They actually come apart. They're a little clip on the bottom, so you can set them up so you don't have to break them. But everything I did on this, I did by eye. You could set them up high, you could set them up low. I mean, it all depends on where you want to put them. So there's no particular spot. But these lights actually work really well. I'm actually shocked on how bright they actually are too. And these are the green ones that they gave me. So once you get that mounted, you could actually put them right back onto the bases. Alright, so for the time being, I'm just going to put the speaker on the inside of the box. Like I said, I haven't decided if it's going to stay in there or not. Either way, I can still run the cord out the hole in the back, but for now I'm just going to leave it in there and see how it sounds. Okay, so now I basically have the whole entire box set up between the pneumatics and the fog machine and everything, so I'm just going to give it a quick function test just to make sure there's no air leaks in the lines. One thing I will say is that I did have a leak in the base cylinder. What I wound up doing is the Teflon that was on the threads wasn't good, so all I did was I just re-Teflon taped them, and as you can see, the box moved and the piston for the lid opener works, so we're pretty good. And now I'm going to start getting the felt ready for the front. Basically, what this will do is it'll actually give it a little bit of a black backdrop on the inside, so you can't see in the box. So it'll give it like a dark effect to it. So the one thing you are going to have to do is you're going to have to trim it around the PVC pipe that's on the inside, and then right after you're done with that, you're just going to staple it to the front of the box. I mean, it's pretty simple. Alright, so now that you're done trimming around the PVC pipe, we could actually figure out where the nano lights are going to go through there. So what I'm doing is I'm just lining them up, and I'm just taking a drill bit, and I'm going to poke a hole right through the black felt. Now the one thing you will do is you are going to have to readjust the nano lights to I actually have it so that they're sticking through the felt a little bit so that they don't move, and they'll actually look like the eyes are, you know, peeking out of a black background. So once you figure that out, you know, you just make a few little adjustments to it and it actually look pretty good. Okay, so this is what you should end up with the PVC and the nano lights, and this is just a quick look at the inside as far as how everything goes. Now I kind of, you know, did a little cable management to try to tidy everything up as best as I could, but obviously you can see you got a lot of stuff in a small little box. Alright, so now we're going to add the hardware to the actual box in the base itself. Right now I'm pre-drilling a couple holes for the eye hooks. I'm going to put 2 on each side, and this will be the attachment points for the chain. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those Husky tie downs on the base, you know, 1 on each side, 2 on each side, and basically the chain's going to go from those tie downs to those eye hooks. Now I pretty much, you know, eyed them up. I mean, you could take measurements, but I eyed them up as to where they're going to go. And now we are going to put 3 on the front of the box. You're going to put 1 on each bottom corner, and then you will put 1 underneath the cage, and that's basically going to be for a chain that's going to go across the front of the box. Now the one thing I did encounter was that when I looked up the original plans, they said 15 feet of chain. This is where I'd go with 20 feet because I came up a little bit short. Originally, as you can see, I have the tie downs on the back bottom corners of the box, and I was originally going to do the top anyway of the lid with the tie downs, but the chain only went as far as the top lid. Alright, so now I'm going to put these quick links on. Now, the one thing I did encounter with these quick links is that the opening was just a little bit too small, so I actually had to bend them open a little bit just to get them onto the tie downs and the eye hooks. I mean, you could bend them open and then afterwards I'll bend them back and actually use them, so it really didn't cause that much of a problem. Alright, now that we have all the tie downs and the eye hooks on, let's get the chains going. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, the 2 back chains you want to keep loose, basically so that the box can move. If you have them too tight, the box isn't going to move. Now, the front ones you can have as tight as you want. I actually readjusted the slack on the front so that they were a little bit tighter, and I mean, that's basically it. So once you get these chains on, we can actually get a little test run of this box going. So these quick links actually make the project a hell of a lot easier when it comes to detaching the chains. So I mean, that's basically it. We'll put the lock on the front, and the next clip you will actually see this bad boy actually in motion. Now I have a test program already booted up into the boo box, so let's see how that works.